What Jeff Brohm and company did this offseason for Louisville was incredible. On today's episode of the show, we are ranking the top 5 most impactful transfers ahead of the 2024 season. That said, stay tuned.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. As always, I want to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. On today's episode of the show, we are ranking the top 5 most impactful transfers for the Louisville Cardinals ahead of the 2024 season. We'll break it down into 3 segments going in descending order. 5 and 4 will be in the first segment, 3 and 2 in the second, and number 1 will get its own segment in the conclusion of the show. Truthfully, it was really challenging compiling this list because not only are there multiple players on the outside looking in that you could definitely make a case for in this list, but also sort of ranking 1 through 5 was not the easiest thing either. I mean, I think it's more so of a testament to just how well the coaching staff did this offseason. For the second straight year, the Cardinals were one of the key offseason winners as it relates to the transfer portal. So you could go with a couple of different combinations here, whether it be the 5 that I've included, whether it be a couple that are on the outside looking in, etc. So drop a comment in the YouTube section below. Who would be your top 5? You can either rank them, you could not rank them. It's up to you. Just want to hear from the fans who you all think are going to be the top 5 most impactful transfers. Throughout this episode, I do want to take this time to apologize for the sinus issues that I'm currently dealing with. It feels like I've been dealing with sinus issues on and off for the past couple months. Currently have more bags under my eyes than your local Kroger. So if my voice cracks here and there, please just disregard. So starting with number 5, we go to the offensive side of the ball. Toledo running back transfer Peny Boone starts this list off. The MAC Offensive Player of the Year, exploded in 2023, top 10 nationally in rushing yards, had 194 carries for 1,400 rushing yards to go with 15 rushing touchdowns, averaging 7.2 yards per carry. Peny projects to be RB1 for the Cardinals this fall, replacing Jawar Jordan. Now, I know that Louisville's running a pro offense, and I feel like they're going to throw the ball more in 2023 with Tyler Shough, who, when he's healthy, can throw the ball all over the field, but Shough will also be involved in the running game, both as a dual threat and in read option situations. But Peny is going to be, in my opinion, the feature back for the Cardinals. Now, will he have 1,400 rushing yards? Probably not. There are a lot of mouths to feed, not only in the running backs committee where you have Miami transfer Don Chaney Jr., you have Maurice Turner, you have some other players in the group. You also have Tyler Shough, who's going to take some carries away because of his dual threat abilities, and you have a very balanced wide receiver and tight end room. You went to the portal and you got some solid receivers. You got a good amount of tight ends. So there's only one ball to go around. And although Peny Boone is going to be RB1, in my opinion, it's probably a situation where unless he has games where he has multiple big yardage runs, which he very well might, I still think getting to 1,400 yards is going to be extremely challenging. But don't let that take away from the impact that he is going to have. Jeff Brohm will once again commit to running the football. And I think that maybe we see the split in run pass a little bit different this year, to where the team is passing the ball more because you have more of a pass-friendly personnel on offense. I still think there's going to be a commitment to running the football. And Boone, although he came from a non-Power 5 school, in Toledo, and he started out at Maryland, didn't really play all that well in his first 2 years in College Park. Transferred to Toledo, had a career year in 2022, and then exploded in 2023. He, according to some, is a top 10 returning running back in college football, which makes a ton of sense. I think that skill set is going to be directly translatable for next season. 6'1", 242 pounds, a rare blend of speed, size, and strength. Reaches over 20 miles an hour on certain runs. It was documented or calculated on a couple runs this past season for Toledo. So I look for him to come to Louisville and be the solid feature back that sets the tone for the Cardinals on the ground. And that's going to really have a true impact for this offense, because I think that what Louisville is going to be able to do on the ground is going to be able to open up a ton of play action situations, going to open up the field to where, hey, look, the Cardinals have some solid wide receivers. They have a quarterback that can throw it downfield. However, you can't really gamble and stack the secondary. You have to put the necessary numbers in the box because of how Peny Boone is going to play. I think it's going to be hard to really project what the numbers are going to look like, statistics, because it's going to be a balanced room again. But I look for him to have a Jawar Jordan level impact, saying that although they are two different types of running backs, Boone's ability to churn out yards, Boone's ability to make defenders miss, record yards after contact, and extend the play, extend the drives, is going to be a valuable skill to have. It's going to be something that allows the Cardinals to ultimately open up the offense. Moving on to number 4, sticking with the offense, we're going with Texas Tech tackle transfer Monroe Mills. Mills was just recently voted ranked as one of the top 10 transfers, top 10 tackle transfers in the portal. I believe at number 7, he was number 1 at one point according to On3, and he was the left tackle for Tyler Shough, the Cardinals quarterback transfer commitment. Started 2 years for the Red Raiders. This past year, he started all 12 games at left tackle and only allowed 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 10 overall hurries. Was an all Big 12 honorable mention, had 500 pass block snaps, 894 blocking snaps as well. But the 6'6", 315-pound offensive lineman from Columbia, Missouri, was fantastic this past year. Didn't really get a lot of time at Oklahoma State early on in his career, but went to Texas Tech and was simply fantastic. So played a ton of snaps at the Power 5 level, and he comes to Louisville being able to slide into the left tackle spot. And left tackle is one of the most valuable positions that you can have for this overall hypothetical and for positions overall in college football. I think it's worth noting that my inclusion of players in the top 5 might not necessarily be a direct reflection of who I feel like are the most talented players. But when you look at impact, you also have to look at positional impact as well. And I think that's where Monroe Mills lands on this list, because left tackle is a position that is, one of the most impactful in football. If you have a solid left tackle, you protect the quarterback's blind side, and ultimately you give the quarterback time to throw. So left tackle, I would argue, is definitely a top 5 most impactful position in football. You could probably go and say that it is maybe top 3, top 4, top 5 at the very least. So Mills, the only reason he's not higher on this list is because I think that there are some internal candidates that could maybe fill that void. Michael Gonzalez has had time at left tackle. A pair of Houston transfers, or past Houston transfers, Trevonte Sylvester, Lance Robinson, could also fill in at left tackle, but I think Mills will be the penciled in LT1 for the Cardinals in spring ball heading into next year. He has the experience. He has the production at the Power 5 level. I know that Big 12 is not necessarily known for its defense, but he has gone up against some very solid defensive lines in his time at Texas Tech. Texas has had a good line. Oklahoma at times has had a good line. Oklahoma State potentially. So ultimately, I still feel like he is going to be a top 5 most impactful transfer for the Cardinals next season, not only because of the production he has, but also the positional value for the left tackle spot. So Peny Boone, Monroe Mills start out this hypothetical ranking, I should say. In the next segment, we break down the number 3 and the number 2 spots, 2 highly regarded transfers, regardless of position. We'll talk about both here momentarily after we talk about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LinkedIn College. Once again, that's linkedin.com/LinkedIn College, Locked On College, to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Cardinal fans, thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. Just a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Continuing on along in our top 5 most impactful transfers ranking ahead of the 2024 season, number 3 and number 2, man, it was difficult to differentiate the two because I think that they are both going to have some top seasons. They're going to have huge impacts. Starting out number 3, South Alabama wide receiver transfer Caullin Lacy, just recently named to the Pro Football Focus all transfer team. He was one of the 3 wide receivers along with Texas A&M transfer Evan Stewart and Alabama transfer Isaiah Bond. Caullin Lacy was fantastic this past season. All first team or all Sun Belt first team, 91 catches, 1,316 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns, 14.5 yards per reception. His receiving yards and receiving touchdowns both ranked inside of the top 6 nationally this past season. Also thought it was notable that he led the country with 842 yards after catch, 430 yards after contact. So make no mistake about it, the 5'10", 190-pound native of Mobile, Alabama will most of the time operate out of the slot for the Cardinals, but he is still a player that can fight through tackles, fight through contact, despite not being the largest receiver. Lacy is going to be used. If you remember the episode a couple days ago, I mentioned that I felt he was going to be used similar to that in the way that Brohm used Rondale Moore back a couple seasons ago at Purdue. They're pretty different in the way that they play. I think that Moore was used more so in short yardage situations and utilized a ton of strength. I think Lacy is going to be more stretching the field, downfield, vertical routes, but also getting him the ball out in space. It's going to be a pivotal point for Jeff Brohm to get the ball in Lacy's hands because he's shown that when he does get the ball, good things happen. I think that his skill set's going to be directly translatable. That's always a question. If a non-Power 5 player can translate that skill set over to the Power 5, I think it's going to be the case. We saw it with Tyler Hudson in 2022. We saw it with Jamari Thrash in 2023. I think that the same thing is going to be for Caullin Lacy in 2024. He's going to be one of the best receivers in the ACC, could potentially be one of the best receivers in the country. I think he is going to have a season that mimics that of Hudson and Thrash. And I don't think it's far-fetched to suggest that he is the best of those three, and that is very high praise to have. But Lacy is going to have one of the top impacts on the team in terms of the incoming transfers. He's going to potentially transform this whole offense, stretching the field, having a wide receiver one that requires that much more defensive attention, whether he's operating out of the slot or he's out on the boundary. Regardless, you best believe that when you are scouting the Cardinals, one of the main things you're going to do is have a game plan for Caullin Lacy specifically. And that's going to be something that I think opposing defenses are going to struggle with. But his impact on the offense as a whole, it's top three, in my opinion. It's going to be one of those situations to where he is really, really going to have a fantastic season, and it's going to force defenses to, potentially double team him, to zone him, whatever may have you, however they're going to potentially defend Lacy. Number two, it was tough. Tyler Barron, Tennessee edge transfer that I talked about with Grant Mulligan on the most recent episode of the show, comes to the Cardinals by way of Knoxville, spent 4 seasons with his hometown Volunteers program, and now entered the portal. He ranked second on the team this past season with 6 total sacks. He has double-digit sacks for his career, over 125 total tackles, 27 and a half of those for a loss. Actually, not 127 total tackles. I think it's actually like 104 total tackles, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and look at that number, but it's over 100. So not only is he going to transform the Cardinals' pass rush, but he's going to offer very solid run defense on the edge to be able to seal the edge. That's one thing that Stephen Herron did really well last year, the Stanford transfer. He was very good at defending the run, but he sort of got lost when it comes to the pass rush. And I think Barron is an upgrade at the position. You bring back Ashton Gelati, you bring back Mason Reiger as well. So you have some very solid numbers, very solid players on the edge. But you bring in a guy like Barron, who not only did what he did at the college ranks, but also in the SEC. He did it against some of the nation's best offenses. So he has that college production. He has that SEC production. And this isn't a player that didn't play a lot, that is maybe is talented, that's looking for some more playing time. No, this is a player that played a ton over his career in Knoxville and entered the portal, wants to play edge more. I think he's going to be the Leo for the Cardinals, the guy, the stand-up linebacker, outside linebacker. So 6'5", 260 pounds, defends the run really well, which I think is going to be a staple of this Cardinals defense, is just being able to do that. And also, I think pass rush was something that the Cardinals struggled with last year in the second part of the season. Bringing a player in of his caliber, I think, gets you that much more improvement. You bring back Gelati, which is huge. Going to be an all-ACC first-team level player, potential all-ACC or your ACC defensive player of the year level guy, and Mason Reiger returning. So it was hard to split 2 and 3. I went back and forth with Lacy and Barron here. The differentiating factor is the pass rush struggling a season ago. I think that there's depth issues at the edge spot. You bring in Ja'Cory Brooks for the Cardinals. Louisville's offense is pretty balanced. I understand you brought back Ashton Gelati. So you could say, well, Lacy is the best at his position. And that's true, but I said most impactful. And as Lacy's going to transform the offense, Barron is going to transform the defense. You can't overlook and undersell how much impact a very solid defensive line can have. The Cardinals address the interior. I put Thor Griffith as number 6 in this hypothetical. He was just on the outside looking in. The only reason I didn't include him was because you bring back Jermaine Lole, you bring back Des Tell, Jared Dawson, you bring in Jordan Gerard. There are multiple guys at that spot that will be rotating. So as good as Thor Griffith is, I sort of went to a couple of different spots here. for the 5-4, 3-2. But 3-2 were extremely challenging to split here. But you could go either way. If you wanted to say Lacy was a 2 and Barron was a 3, I'm okay with that as well. But I think that Barron's impact not only on the pass rush, but also defending the run, having that SEC level experience, I think that maybe the impact might be a little bit larger for him than it is for Lacy, but you're still talking about two very fantastic players. But number one, talking about impact, by default, it should be obvious. He might not necessarily be the best player, regardless of position, that Louisville has brought in via this transfer class, but he 100% will have the most impact. We'll tell you who number one is here in just a moment after we tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. The All-Star game is today. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with the quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And then there was one final segment as we rank the top 5 most impactful transfers ahead of the 2024 season. The top selection shouldn't surprise you. It feels lazy to do this, but I really don't think it is a question. You look at the positional value. The quarterback spot is the most valuable spot on the field. Tyler Shough, Texas Tech quarterback transfer, is number one in the top 5 most impactful transfers ahead of the 2024 season for the Louisville Cardinals. I don't think he's the best transfer that Louisville's brought in, because there's players that have produced more, I think, that are better at their position than Shough is at his. And no disrespect to Tyler, I just think that that's more of a reflection on some of the players that Louisville's brought in. But quarterback is the most valuable position on the field. And we saw last year with Jack Plummer that it could be the top most impactful decision that Louisville can make in the offseason, because you can have Caullin Lacy, you can have Ja'Cory Brooks, you can have a great tight end room, you can have a great offensive line, you can have a great running backs room. But if you have a quarterback that is struggling, you damper the ceiling for your offense. So the impact that Tyler Shough can have, both positive and negative, it's great. It is great in talking about abundance, in number, in overall gauge. It is a very large impact that he will have. Unfortunately, it can also go negative as well. You could say, well, Pierce Clarkson, Brady Allen, Harrison Bailey are some internal candidates that could replace him. That is true, but make no mistake about it, Tyler Shough was brought in to this Cardinals program as a 7th-year transfer to be the QB1 for a season for the Cardinals. And that was the decision that Brohm kind of alluded to in his post-National Signing Day press conference, where he said he treated bowl practice season as a gauge to see, what he has at the quarterback room. And he ultimately decided to go out to the portal to get a veteran guy in Tyler Shough. Now, when he's healthy, he is on. However, that is a very large win. So he has missed a good amount of the past 3 seasons with season-ending injuries, but when he has played, the former Oregon and Texas Tech transfer quarterback shows that he is extremely solid. Spent 3 years at his past 2 destinations, never had over 13 passing touchdowns, only 1 season with double-digit passing touchdowns, never had over 4 rushing touchdowns in a season. And so you might say, well, how good can he be? Well, the film is there. When he's on the field, he can throw the ball all over the field, has a live arm, probably a higher ceiling, a lower floor than Jack Plummer. But the quarterback position, like I said, you have such a large impact that by default, I hate, using this. It feels almost like a cop-out when you put quarterback as the most impactful spot, but let's call it how it is. That's pretty much how the game of football is. So, I went with Shough here. The impact that he could have on this season for a program with title or with college football playoff aspirations, it's huge. Simply put, Jeff Brohm had a couple different options that he could have gone with at quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke being one of them. He opted to go with Tyler Shough. And he said in the National Signing Day press conference that the injuries, after they did their extensive research, were deemed unlucky. However, they were still injuries, and he made it a point of emphasis to say that, hey, look, injuries are a part of football. It happens. Anyone can get injured, so you're always banking on a good bill of health for a season or a couple seasons when you bring in transfers, because that's just the reality of the sport of football. It's a contact sport that requires a good amount of health to be able to have a year of sustained availability. So Tyler Shough, number one for me. This isn't a reflection of me feeling like he's the best player that Louisville brought in. It's more so the most important player that he brought in because of what he's being tasked to do. Jack Plummer wasn't perfect. He wasn't outstanding, but he wasn't bad. He did what he needed to do. He was a game manager for the Cardinals, led the team to 10 regular season wins. You could say, well, it was mainly a run-dominant offense. That probably is true, but he still made the plays that he needed to make to win. But the ceiling was a little bit lower with Plummer as your quarterback. You bring Shough in to give you the best chance at winning for 1 year until you turn the keys over to, theoretically, either Pierce Clarkson or Brady Allen, Deuce Adams in 2025. 2024, on paper, it's Tyler Shough's year. He's not fully healthy yet, but he's projecting to be fully healthy by sometime in spring ball, maybe the end of spring ball. But Louisville brought him in to be QB1 to give them the best chance to win games. And for the new 12-team college football playoff format, there's more opportunity than there ever has been. Heading into the season finale last year, or the regular season finale this past season, Louisville was right in the mix to be on the outside looking in for the 4-team playoff. The opportunity is there to get to the 12-team playoff as well. To do that, they have to get good play from the quarterback spot. They have to not be one-dimensional. I think Shough's impact, not only on throwing the football, but also on the running game as well, could definitely pay off dividends for a Cardinals team that sort of was a little bit too predictable. That if you shut down Louisville's rushing attack and you force Jack Plummer to throw the ball to win games, you were putting Louisville into a very vulnerable spot. If Shough can stay healthy, if he can make an impact in the rushing game while also stretching the field, vertically throwing the ball, I think Louisville has a good chance to make the 12-team playoff. So it was really challenging to rank the top 5 most impactful transfers ahead of this season. It really was. That's a testament to how good Brohm and company did in the portal. I want to hear who was in your top 5. Drop a comment in the YouTube section below under the Twitter post on the Locked On Louisville Twitter page. But that's going to wrap up this Sunday episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back.